Good morning, everyone. I am Blayne Gilmer. Welcome into Southeastern 14. This is SEC football game day as we are on the morning here of Week 7 games. Yes, we have a wonderful SEC slate that's going to come our way here in just a couple of hours, and we are excited to break it all down for you. If you haven't been following us throughout the week for all of our previews and predictions, the breakdowns that we've done with various people like Tavares King, Noshawn Marino, who just got named an SEC legend. Congratulations to Noshawn. He will be honored at the 2023 SEC championship game and around that weekend as well. Some various things in Atlanta, but also Jake Crane has been on here with us. Of course, Chris Lee, Blake Lovell, everybody that does their normal thing here on Southeastern 14. So if you aren't subscribed, go ahead and do it right now. Like, subscribe, turn on notifications. Just passed 12,000 subs the other day, and that's because of you guys hopping in here, getting involved in the chat, getting involved in the content that we have, and we greatly appreciate it. So let's go ahead and get into a couple of these matchups here, these early ones that probably aren't going to be as good of games. I'll be quite honest with you. And we'll start with Arkansas and Alabama. I just find it real hard to believe that Arkansas is going to be able to do anything up front that would warrant them having success in this football game. Early kick on the road. I think that the offensive line struggles have just mounted up, and now they're playing their third straight really physical game in a row, and Alabama gets to come home and try to – I know that Arkansas has been a lot better defensively, but Alabama needs to come home and try to lick their wounds a little bit too, because even though they won on the road against Texas A&M last week, they weren't able to run the football against that front, and you know that's going to hurt the pride of a Nick Saban coach team. That Tommy Rees, who definitely wants to be able to run the football, is going to want to get back to that identity. So I look for him to try to establish that early, then try to hit the shots down the field. Jermaine Burton, he's never been a consistent ball player. He had a great performance, but Nick Saban and others who are very wise say the true measure of greatness is consistency. So can he have another big output like that? I think that'll be something to watch there. Arkansas, though, has been competitive despite their troubles up front. Even with not being able to run the football virtually at all this year, the 3 of their losses have been by 1 score. So we'll see if they're able to stay in it here in Tuscaloosa early on and see if it, finds itself to be a game in the fourth quarter. But I do not see that happening. I think Alabama has a chance to cover in this one. I just think that the buildup of these physical contests for Arkansas and the trouble they have in the offensive line is going to catch up with them here. And that defense has not been bad, but they can't be on the field all game. And I think they'll be on the field for a lot of plays because of the lack of ability of Arkansas to be able to extend drives. So give me Alabama big in Tuscaloosa. You head over to Nashville. Georgia's 32.5-point favorite at Vanderbilt. That's a lot of points, but I don't think Vanderbilt scored a touchdown on Georgia in the last 3 or 4 seasons. It's been a rough go for the Commodores when Georgia, whether it's Georgia coming to Nashville or whether it's in Athens. This one's in Nashville. There's going to be a ton of Georgia fans up there. There's always a sea of red in that stadium when Georgia travels to Vanderbilt. The over-under has dropped down to 55. This one's a 12 o'clock kick on CBS, which is a little strange that it's on CBS at that time slot. So, but Georgia just looking to execute, stay healthy, and they should take care of business. That's a lot of points. I don't care who you're playing. I don't know if I would touch a side on that one if I was you in terms of the number. But obviously Georgia's the more talented team. We'll see how they look going into Nashville later today. Now, we're also going to talk more in depth about the other 4 matchups that we have, and we will start with Tennessee and Texas A&M. However, I'm going to go ahead and put some analytics up here for you Let me move my screen here. There we go. Get the nice graphics showing here for you that we got working on. So the analytics here that we're going to go through are SEC offensive metrics, and these have changed a little bit because I went back and reviewed things. LSU was first in every single category, but Georgia, with its performance against Kentucky and how consistent it's been on third down, really what Carson Beck has done against Auburn and Kentucky on third and fourth down has made Georgia the number one team in terms of combined third and fourth down success rate. But all these other statistical areas, whether it's predicted points added on a per play basis, so basically the result of every play, how does that equate to points based on the result you're getting, yard line, down and distance, all that kind of stuff. LSU's predicted points added per play, almost a half a point per play, which is ridiculous. It's 0.488. So that is just remarkable. They lead the conference in explosive runs, so that's runs over 12 yards at 44. And then, of course, they also lead the conference with 39 explosive passes of 20 yards or more. You can see the least predicted points added for any team in the SEC is Auburn, which they are at 0.171 predicted points added on a per play basis. That's even less than Vanderbilt. And then the fewest the fewest explosive runs for any team, South Carolina at 10. The fewest explosive passes is Tennessee at 10. So we're going to dive into that as well. Missouri has the worst third, fourth down combined success rate. Tennessee is a 3-point favorite in Knoxville. Neyland Stadium will be jam-packed. They'll be looking for a big home game environment there. 3:30 kickoff on CBS. Tennessee has 2 weeks to prepare for this one. A&M coming off that tough loss, that physical game against Alabama. Can they put that behind them and not let Alabama beat them twice? You can see the over-under has lowered down to 54.5. So let's take a look at this matchup when the Aggies have the football. Guys, these are two teams that have been pretty good in terms of these numbers that we have. Stuff rate is the amount of times when you're running the football that you get stopped at or behind the line of scrimmage. So either no gain or a negative play running the football. The Aggies do a good job of not getting stopped behind the line very often, only 11.3% offensive stuff rate. Defensively, Tennessee doing a very good job of creating those 0-yard or negative plays in the run game outside of that Florida contest. But overall, 22.7% for Tyler Barron, Aaron Beasley, all those guys over there on that Tennessee defense. James Pierce, they're all doing a really good job with that. James Pierce is also another reason that Tennessee is 15th in the country in havoc rate. So havoc rate being, okay, how many times you get a tackle for a loss? That can be a tackle for a loss, a sack, a forced fumble, a tip ball, an interception on that defense as a whole. Tennessee doing really good job there, 20.04%. Anytime you're over 20% of your defensive snaps are creating havoc, you're doing a really good job in getting to an elite status in the country. So Tennessee's very active on defense, and at the same time, Texas A&M does a pretty good job of it. Is climbed up a little bit. This was a lot lower for them in terms of the ranking in the country, but now they have dropped their percentage of havoc allowed 14.8%. So getting a little bit better on that. Points per opportunity, a scoring opportunity is categorized, okay, when the ball has gotten past the defense's 40-yard line. So when Texas A&M has gotten past the opposing defense's 40-yard line, they are getting an average of 4.11 points per opportunity. That's good. That means you're getting up there more touchdowns than you are field goals, because it is averaging well over the 3-point mark. Where you see Tennessee, on the other hand, is doing a good job of holding people to less than a field goal, 2.86 points per opportunity for that Tennessee defense. Now, the line yards, guys, what those are when you have a run play, how many yards is the offensive line responsible for in that run play for helping the running back? Basically, what kind of push are you getting on your run plays? And you can see Texas A&M, their offensive line, responsible for 3.36 line yards per rush. That's pretty good. You're getting a good surge up front. And then at different times, Tennessee, 2.56 line yards they're holding the opposing offensive line to, which is pretty good over there as well. So kind of strength on strengths for these teams here. Average predicted points added on a per play basis is 0.264, which is a little bit under the league average for Texas A&M. They're going to have to their results of their plays haven't always got them in there leading to 2 points all across the field at different points. And then Tennessee, 0.054. That's really good on the defensive side of the ball for Tennessee. You look flip sides here, and you've got Texas A&M defensively, a really high stuff rate, 21.9%. Tennessee, an elite stuff rate. They just do not get stopped at or behind the line of scrimmage when they're running the football, 8.3%. So that is a big strength on strength performance here. Tennessee wants to be able to run the football. They have 30 explosive runs this year. So can they get going against a Texas A&M front that is very, very good at stopping the run? I'll be interested to see that. The havoc rate for Texas A&M, number 2 in the country at 28%. So they are disruptive. They're going to find ways to get back in the backfield, affect the quarterback, tip balls, intercept balls, all this kind of stuff, get tackles for a loss. It is a tremendous job by DJ Durkin and that front seven. Can they get better on the back end is the question for the Texas A&M defense. Pretty good on havoc allowed. Actually, Tennessee, 9th in the country in havoc allowed, only at 13.54%. So they've done a good job of protecting Joe Milton. You got Cooper Mays. It's going to be up there as well. So excited to see that matchup between a active Texas A&M front and a very good Tennessee offensive line. Tennessee's points per opportunity offensively is about the same as Texas A&M's was, 4.12. And then the Aggies are holding people well under a field goal on their offensive, on their defensive points per opportunity. So again, strength on strength when talking about that matchup right there. And then the same thing on the line yards and the average PPA. So these teams very, very similar in their performance so far. So I'm just looking to see, okay, can Joe Milton take advantage of a clear weakness of what is this Texas A&M secondary? They get lost in man coverage. They get lost in zone coverage. DJ Durkin has to find ways, I think, to get home and get pressure on Joe Milton. But even when they do that, if they bring pressure, there will be throws to be made. If Joe Milton can read it quickly, get it out of his hand and be accurate with the football, then I think Tennessee's going to have scoring opportunities in this game. I don't know that Tennessee's going to be able to run the football very well in this game just because nobody does against that talented Texas A&M front. And when you're talking about Shamar Turner, Shamar Stewart, Jackson McKinley, Walter Nolan, Fidel Diggs, Adrian Cooper's playing as good as anybody at linebacker, I think they're going to be able to limit Tennessee's run game. So the question is, this game comes down to Joe Milton, his ability to make plays, like I said, to read defenses and hit the open guy, take the layup when you've got the layup. So will they be able to do that? They get Dante Thornton back, a speed demon down the field for Tennessee. Of course, they're without Brew McCoy now. So who's going to kind of step up and be that leader there of the wide receiver room? You got Ramel Keaton, Squirrel White, and Dante Thornton. Like I said, of course, they love their running backs in Sampson, Wright, and Small. Joe Milton, I think, is going to have to get involved trying to run the football a little bit in this game as well. I think it's going to be very, very close. I'm just intrigued because it's kind of strength on strength. Tennessee wants to run the football. A&M's going to stop the run, and then it's weakness on weakness because Tennessee has not been as explosive or as efficient in the passing game this year as they wanted to be, and then Texas A&M has not been very good at stopping the pass either. So I'm just intrigued by that one. Let me know what you guys think in the comments in the chat here, and we'll be looking at those and looking forward to seeing what you guys think going into it. Put your predictions out there. Let me know if you have a feeling on something. Put it in that chat and let me know. Now, Florida and South Carolina. We've talked about the importance of this game and for these two programs all week. Billy Napier 1-7 away from the swamp during his tenure with the Gators, and then Shane Beamer. He's had 2 weeks to prepare for a Florida team that is coming in without its center in Kinsley Aguakon, and they're going to have an opportunity here to make a statement, and both of these teams really need to do so. So let's dive into the numbers here. Of course, South Carolina 2.5 point favorite. Failed to mention that, so I'll put that up there. 2.5 point favorite. 50.5 is the over under. This is a 3:30 game on SEC Network at Williams-Brice Stadium. And let's look at it. One thing that is a question here: can Florida be productive in its running game on the road? You see the stuff rate for this Florida offense in terms of runs at or behind the line of scrimmage. That is very, very high for a Billy Napier team. They are typically not getting stopped at or behind the line of scrimmage that much, especially with backs like Napier, like Etienne, and like Johnson. Okay, this factors in. This number is pretty up there and inflated because of abysmal performances on the road running the football, both against Utah and against Kentucky. 31 rushing yards on the road for Florida against Utah, 69 on the road for Florida against Kentucky. So that is not very great. Of course, the stuff rate for South Carolina is not great as well defensively. They only stop people at or behind the line of scrimmage 16.1 times, which is nowhere near the number you want. So Florida, can you run the football against a front that you should be able to run the football against? 13.4% havoc allowed for Florida. That's pretty good. Offensive line, pretty solid. Only 14% havoc rate for South Carolina, one of the worst in the country. That's not going to get it done over there. Points per opportunity, Florida is very good when they get across your 40. They're gonna get it towards the end zone, towards a touchdown more often than not, as at 4.69 points per opportunity. South Carolina just average, holding people right above a field goal once they get to that point of the field. 3.13 line yards are both just about average for both, and the average PPA for Florida is below the league average, 2.84. But defensively, that is not a good average predicted points added per play for South Carolina. They're going to have to tighten up. If you're giving up almost a quarter point per play based on the result of things, you're not playing very efficiently on defense. So I think the defense for the Gamecocks has a lot of questions coming in, but even with, you see, like the stuff rate and things like that for Florida, they haven't done well on the road. So how big of an effect will Williams-Brice have on that matchup, offense versus defense, when it comes to the Gators and Gamecocks? Now, the Florida defense, you see Princely Emanamalian up there. They've got guys across that defensive front that have been challenged at various times. They rose to the occasion against Tennessee. They did not show up against Kentucky to the tune of 280 something yards, or over 300 yards rushing, 280 yards just for Ray Davis in that game a couple of weeks ago. So has Florida been able to, you would have to think if they did a little bit better in that game, that stuff rate, which is below 20%, which is pretty good, is okay for that defense. It's 18.5%, would be even higher for that Gators defense, but they just absolutely did not show up, kept running under blocks. So will they have that cleaned up now as they head to South Carolina? South Carolina's stuff rate is very, very high. Not able to run the football very well at all. Now, it's not as high as Florida's, but that's partly because, hey, they just hadn't ran the ball as much. They've kind of abandoned it and said, hey, we're going to let Spencer Rattler, who you see pictured there, we're going to let him kind of kind of run the show and see how that goes for us and throw the football a lot. Havoc rate allowed. South Carolina also one of the worst in the country in that. So they have issues up front, both offensively and defensively. The havoc rate for Florida, I mean, it's okay. It's nothing crazy over there, but you would like that to see that number well above 20% if you're going to get in elite territory. Both these teams are just okay when it comes to points per opportunity. Florida defensively, South Carolina offensively. The line yards not great for either one. Florida, less than 3 is better on the defensive side than the less than 3 for South Carolina on the offensive side. And then you see the average points, predicted points added per play. Florida pretty dang good, 0.097. That's well under the league average. And then you have South Carolina, which is well below the league average offensively on predicted points added. So that's kind of your matchup behind the matchup on those two. And really, guys, I just think it's so important for the momentum of these programs. Florida needs a win on the road badly just to, stop people from, saying, hey, Billy Napier can't win on the road. He can't get it done, this and that, things like that. And then Shane Beamer, of course, he's got to show that, hey, this staff, 2 weeks to prepare. I don't care about the injuries. We've got a home environment, got a team coming in that's banged up in Florida, who's missing, a couple wide receivers, missing their starting center, got a tackle actually returning from injury in this game. So can they do what they need to do, take care of business with 2 weeks to prepare? We shall see, guys. This isn't the prediction show. All the predictions are come out earlier in the week. This is just giving you information as we head into the game day environment here. Now, Auburn and LSU, 11.5-point favorite. The Tigers are as of this morning. The over under 60.5. This is a 7 o'clock Eastern, 6 o'clock Central kickoff in Baton Rouge. Will LSU be able to limit the run game for Auburn? And listen, the reason that is the question on this one, guys, is not because there's any doubt of anything with LSU in terms of offensively. We know that's a fact. We know LSU is going to put up points. We know Jaden Daniels is going to play well. But I need to see that LSU defense play complete. And I think what you're going to do is you're going to see Auburn, who's had 2 weeks, a bye week, coming into this one, that Hugh Freeze is going to find ways to run the football. They've run the football on everybody this year, even Georgia. And because they do so creatively with quarterback runs, they haven't hit their stride on the RPO game of things yet. I believe the count is up to 6 straight Power 5 football games without a quarterback throwing for over 100 yards for Auburn. That's got to be good news for LSU fans, as they've given up a ton of passing yards over the last 2 or 3 games. So you want to see a offense coming in there that has struggled to pass the football. Now, we will know this: if Auburn goes in there and throws for 200, 250 yards against LSU in this game, it will be like a team going, a normal team going off for 500 passing yards against you, and there are problems. So what is Matt House going to be able to do to get this LSU defense playing better? Okay, we're about to go inside the numbers here on those two teams, and it's going to be interesting to see the trends of these. Okay, Auburn so bad in the passing game, LSU so bad in the passing game defensively. So we'll see the weakness on weakness there, and then really LSU has struggled against the run defensively as well. Again, Auburn's going to need to control the clock in this one as much as they can, and they're going to need to come away with points on their possessions, because LSU is going to be able to go up and down the field. Auburn is a good defense, but they're a banged-up defense, and they've got a lot of injuries, and I just think LSU's got the best offense in the country. So let's go ahead and hop into the numbers on this matchup right here. The Tigers, the Auburn Tigers, that is, offense, not a great stuff rate, 18%. You'd like to see that number a lot lower, but it is not a good stuff rate at all for LSU's defense. They're not holding people to 0 or negative yardage plays on the run game nearly enough to be able to put people in situations where they're having to play behind the chains. When you can stop people at or behind the line of scrimmage, first, second down, it makes those third and longs a lot tougher, and people have been able to convert pretty easily against LSU defensively. The havoc rate, same thing, not a great havoc rate for LSU, and that's surprising with all the talented front seven they have with Harold Perkins and Mason Smith and all those guys up front, Savion Jones. I mean, they've had a bunch of really good players up there, but haven't been able to create a lot of havoc this year. The havoc rate allowed for Auburn, okay, like everything's pretty average on this side of the ball for Auburn, except the average predicted points added have been terrible. And that's partially, guys, because when you can only run the football and you're not able to pass it effectively, once you get down in that red area, guys, you got to be able to have some passing game, because it gets harder and harder to run the football. You got to be able to have some efficiency there. Scheme wise, you got to be able to fit some things, and they just have struggled, whether it's been the quarterback play, the receivers dropping balls at times, the scheme not marrying up with what they want to do, pass and run wise in that RPO game. So I just think that they've got to find ways to get better in that area. That the points per opportunity for LSU, 4.8 defensively. That means teams, they get past your 40, they pretty much know they're getting in there to score a touchdown more often than not, and that is not a good number if you are LSU. So that's the side of the matchup when Auburn has the ball and LSU is on defense. Then when Auburn is on defense and LSU is on offense, just look at these numbers for LSU. My goodness, a stuff rate of only 10.4%, elite. That means Jaden Daniels, when he pulls the ball down to run, he's getting across that line of scrimmage and much more. Logan Diggs has been a big part of this as well. The havoc rate, only 11.3%. That is very, very good as well. They're protecting Jaden Daniels, and they're able to, be efficient with the football and get things going. Elite they are in points per opportunity. The line yards way up there, almost 4. There you get up near 4 yards for the offensive line being responsible for on these run plays. That's great. And we've talked about their at the very top, their average predicted points added, almost half a point per play. It's ridiculous, guys. It's ridiculous how productive they've been offensively. You look at Auburn, the stuff rate's good. The points per opportunity, very, very good, holding people to just right over a field goal when they get across their 40-yard line. So that's good. They've been good at the point of contact, guys, not allowed offensive lines to get a great push on them at 2.83 line yards and an average PPA. This is a good Auburn defense. Now, they do have some injuries that worry me a little bit, but this is a good Auburn defense. So we're seeing strength on strength in this one as well. But I think that home environment, the liquored up Cajuns, as I like to say, the LUC for LSU, are going to get things rolling over there. I do think this is closer than an 11.5-point game, mainly because I don't have confidence in LSU to make enough stops to make it a blowout. I think they'll score, but I think they'll also let Auburn score. Now, you give Hugh Freeze 2 weeks to cook up some offensive plays. He's going to do so. Can Peyton Thorne and Robbie Ashford execute those, and how much does Robbie Ashford play is something I'm intrigued to see in this game too. But I think that number may be a little too high there in this matchup. All right, so that is LSU hosting Auburn, and then we have one more game at night here that we're going to go with, and that is Missouri at Kentucky, Kroger Field in Lexington. 2.5-point favorite. The Wildcats are over the Tigers in this one. 7:30 kickoff on SEC Network. Who bounces back better, guys? Kentucky absolutely got their teeth kicked in against Georgia last week. They weren't able to run the football well. They had some wide open passes early in the game. They didn't hit, and that squelched any kind of momentum they could have had. They had a ton of stupid penalties. I mean, guys that were just absolutely doing stuff that was idiotic after the snap. So that shows a lack of discipline. That's something I think Mark Stoops is not known for. His teams are very disciplined. So I think that's discouraging if you're Mark Stoops to do something out of character as a team. And then Missouri, they were up at home on LSU, and they just couldn't get enough stops on Jaden Daniels and company over there defensively. Enos Rakestraw is going to be out for this game for Missouri, so they're going to be down one one of their best players on defense over there at corner. So, does that help Devin Leary and Dane Key, Robinson, all those guys, Barry Brown get back? Now, Barry Brown's been a little beat up himself. Also, there are a couple injuries to watch for Kentucky. Jalen Geiger's not going to be there in the secondary. So that's another opportunity for Luther Burden, Theo Wees, Mookie Cooper, all these guys to get rolling on the Missouri offense as well. And then Cody Schrader for Missouri, of course, as a running back, he's got a pulled quad deal, so we'll see what it looks like there. But Kentucky, like I mentioned, Trevin Wallace and Keyshawn Silver both left the Georgia game, maybe looking at a shoulder deal, something like that, but both are listed on the depth chart, so maybe they'll be able to play. I think that's kind of questionable heading into today, so we'll see, if news comes out further in the day. And then, of course, they're awaiting the return of Kenneth Horsey. I think they're just keeping mum's the word on that. They're not really talking about it. He may just arrive one day, just show up, Kenneth Horsey, and that would be a big boost for the Kentucky Wildcats there on the offensive line. But, guys, we're going to look at the numbers inside the matchup here. So let's take a look at that. When Missouri has the ball, their stuff rate is 23.3%. That is not good. They are not running the football efficiently. Now, Cody Schrader has a lot of yards, but there's been times during the year where they've struggled to get it going consistently. So that's not very good, guys. The stuff rate for Kentucky, okay, not as high as they would want. There's been some times where they've allowed people to not run the football for a lot of yards, but just get a little push on them more than they want to, and that's just a point of pride there for Mark Stoops and company. Nothing crazy, but still pretty good. 19.3. You want to see that number north of 20%. Havoc rate, that is nowhere near as high as Kentucky would like it on that side. Decent job for Missouri, not great. Points per opportunity, Missouri's pretty good, averaging well over 4.4 points per opportunity once you get past the other team's 40. And then Kentucky, when teams get past their 40, they're holding people to just over a field goal. That number was well below 3. It was in the 2.8s before the Georgia game, but Georgia really did a number on them and inflated that points per opportunity number on the Wildcats last week. Line yards are virtually equal in terms of what kind of push Missouri gets, less than 3 yards, not great. And then 2.87 for Kentucky is actually pretty good, keeping things. I know Kentucky's average predicted points added was way lower last week as well, before Georgia got a hold of them. And then pretty dang good there. Anytime it's over 0.3 on a per play basis for Missouri, you're doing things pretty well offensively. So they've been pretty explosive on the year and been able to produce points based on the down distance, yardage, all that kind of stuff. So really, really good there. Now the defense, the stuff rate for the Tigers defense, very, very high. Over a quarter of the time they're able to stop people running the football, whether it's at or behind the line of scrimmage. So that's really, really good. The havoc rate, not as good. Okay, that they haven't produced a lot, whether it's tips or turnovers, things like that. So not able to do that. Kentucky's havoc rate a little bit higher than you would desire offensively. Okay, but the points per opportunity, this is where Missouri has not been good at all. If you've got inside of their 40-yard line, you're a lot of times coming away with 6 points. You can see the average points per opportunity there. I believe it's 36, 38 trips people have gotten inside of Missouri's 40-yard line this year. 4.61 points per opportunity defensively. That is not good at all, whereas Kentucky has been good in that situation. They get past your 40-yard line, they're coming away with 6 more often than not. 4.44 points per opportunity. The line yards a little bit better for Kentucky in this matchup than a little bit better for Missouri in this matchup than Kentucky. They're holding people at 2.45 yards a push against them with that offensive line on the line yards. Kentucky's hadn't been great. It's been Ray Davis doing a lot of this stuff on his own at times. So we'll see how that matchup takes place there. And then average predicted points added, Kentucky's right around the SEC average mark there. Missouri, okay, not great, not elite, but still pretty good, right around the league average defensively as well. So, guys, that are all the matchups that we have this week. It's going to be a great slate of games. Tennessee, Texas A&M, backs against the wall when you're talking about SEC aspirations. So who comes out on top there with some adversity facing A&M? I believe Jimbo Fisher 3-13 on the road. We've talked about the road troubles for Billy Napier and what that can do for each program. I think the seat's going to start getting hot. Not like firing hot, okay, in terms of getting fired, but in terms of there being some heartburn and some consternation, maybe with boosters, maybe with some of the fans, stuff like that. Some whispers out there. Whoever loses that Florida-South Carolina game, I think you're going to see some of that. I'm looking forward to seeing Hugh Freeze's offense, like I said, with 2 weeks to prepare, going against LSU defense. Want to see LSU's defense, if they can batten down the hatches a little bit, get a little bit better. And then that Kentucky and Missouri game could be one of the best games of the week, guys. So thank you so much for tuning in here to Southeastern 14. We cover SEC sports daily. Blake Lovell is going to start ramping up basketball coverage. He's already got previews going out. So this league has become a premier league for basketball. The SEC has, of course, baseball is going to be coming up in the spring, and Chris Lee will have you covered there. We all do our best to cover everything SEC football because football is king here. So if you want daily SEC coverage, my morning report comes out Monday through Thursday morning at 10 a.m. Eastern, 9 Central. Chris Lee, Blake Lovell, Gavin Schoenwald, sometimes the former Vanderbilt tight end. They have a daily show that goes live every weekday. That's at 12 Eastern, 11 Central, and lasts about an hour each day. And then you're talking about shows like, hey, we've got Brian Edwards from Vegas Insider that gives you Vegas tips, predictions, betting odds, all that kind of stuff that you need to know. He's been around in Vegas for decades, so get some insights from him. Of course, I mentioned Jake Crane from Crane and Company on the Daily Wire. He's with us each Friday at 10 a.m. Eastern, 9 Central, and then at 8:30 p.m. Eastern, 7:30 p.m. Central, live each Wednesday night. Myself, Tavares King, Noshawn Marino, two former SEC greats. Noshawn just got named as an SEC legend. They're with me each and every Wednesday night. So we hope that you will pick this as your place for daily SEC coverage. Like, subscribe, turn on notifications. Thank you so much for tuning in, and we will catch you guys next time right here on Southeastern 14 for more daily SEC coverage.